Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar, Digital Twins, Accelerating Smart Factories with 3D Visualization. My name is Matt Hein, and I'm joined by my colleague, Allison Cyclica, and we'll be your presenters today. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items to go over. Everybody attending the session today is in listen-only mode, but we'd love to hear from you throughout the question box, throughout the webinar in the question box. And so that's in the control panel for the webinar here. Or you can also tweet us at Vertex Viz. We will be answering your questions at the end of the webinar today. So throughout, please add them and we'll get to them at the end. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Matt Hein. I am Vice President of Product at Vertex. Before Vertex, I had a long history at Workiva, where I was VP of Product and UX, which is Workiva is a financial services company. Before that, I spent some time at the Virtual Reality Application Center at Iowa State working on 3D data visualization, data science and AI, as well as human-computer interaction. As I said before, I'm joined by Allison. Allison, if you could please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So my name's Allison Cyclica. I'm a product manager with Vertex Software. I've just over 10 years experience working with product teams, both on the business and engineering side. I've been with Vertex for just over 2.5 years now. And I'm really excited about the launch of our digital twin platform, and we're going to talk a little bit about how that can help accelerate smart factories at organizations.
Thank you, Allison. So to get started here, one thing we just want to go over some of the challenges that we see with our customers and prospects as they try to build digital twins throughout the enterprise. We're going to be talking about specifically creating a twin for smart factories today, but we also see digital twins for service, for sales, for customer experience, all along the value chain. Pretty much every time we get into an engagement with a customer, we often first run into challenges with the data. These file sizes are very large. Especially if you're interacting with 3D data or time series data set like IoT or something like that. The other challenge, I think real compelling digital twins are used to use data from a variety of sources and mash those together, and that's often very cumbersome and challenging. If you can get the 3D data to create a digital twin, one of the problems that you run into is just how do I get into a format that I can deliver over the web or to a tablet or a phone or something like that. And so we often see challenges with needing very beefy graphics cards. Oftentimes, the user experience for some of these existing tools are very complex, and for someone that's not a mechanical engineer, 3D CAD modeler, or manufacturing engineer, that user experience can be very overwhelming. So, the other challenge that we see with data is just, especially on the 3D aspect of your data, getting it into a format where you can actually see it on these desktops or computers. You have to go through a lot of data transformation. It's very time intensive to just get down the representation that can actually be displayed on a device. And oftentimes that's a very low quality visual representation. So one of the things that Vertex has done is created a 3D digital twin platform for visualizing these digital twins. So what we can do is take any size model. So that could, we're talking about factories here today. So that could be your entire factory. It could also include all of the components being built within that factory at every stage along the way. And Allison will demo some of that here in a bit. And then, again, you're trying to get this digital twin into the hands of the users that can benefit from it. And so we can deliver that 3D representation of that digital twin to any user. And in this case, let's say shop floor technicians, right to their device. And we know sometimes those devices that they have on the shop floor can be somewhat underpowered when it comes to 3D. And oftentimes with our customers, we see them trying to get to the point where they're using iPads or tablets or something like that on the shop floor. And so it's very important that you can render there. So Vertex has built this 3D visualization capability for digital twins. Like I said, we can scale to any size model there. And the way that we can do this is we're rendering everything in the cloud without using GPUs. And so we're able to render all those 3D data sets and then stream images back to the client so that you can have a device independent experience for rendering that data. Along with that, we don't require you to do any data transformation, so we pull the data directly out of your PLM or wherever it may be as the as designed representation or the as is, depending on what type of modeling you have. And again, we can scale to all the users that you need. Again, shop floor to top floor, and it's highly secured, patent pending data model that we have on that. Next slide, Allison. One thing to note, and we kind of talk about the system of engagement for the digital twin. We collect, we can take all of your systems of record along the bottom there, get your 3D data into the cloud, and then connect the 3D data to those systems of record. If you have unique identifiers along the way, so anything in your ERP system, like think about quality defects or something like that, sensor data coming from your IoT system, we can pull all that together in your 3D model and deliver it to downstream users. And like I said, today we'll be talking about smart factories, but we also have had webinars here to talk about a service use case for field technicians, as well as connected IoT webinar. And then next week, we'll also be talking about sales. So, and again, to reiterate, next slide, Allison, Vertex serves the entire digital thread from as designed all the way to the customer actually using the product, as well as serviced in that customer experience around sales and service. So with that, I will turn it over to Allison to talk about specifically Vertex as it applies to Smart Factory.
Great, thanks, Matt. So like Matt said, today we're going to focus on smart factories and some of the challenges you see with delivering digital twin to smart factories. Unlocking those use cases is similar to what Matt covered earlier. But I guess the first question is, why adopt a digital twin strategy for your smart factory? I think a good thing to keep in mind is that adding those 3D visualizations and aligning that to some of your other data helps bring that data to life, whether we're talking about aligning IoT data to a factory floor representation or adding 3D into your work instructions. Those 3D visuals help give a richer experience for your end user and also makes your data more actionable and interactive. So why don't companies do this today? The biggest limitation right now is that it's nearly impossible to view digital twins of factories with the existing tool set that you have today. Additionally, when we're talking about delivering 3D work instructions to the shop floor, we're often talking about those more low compute devices like tablets. And even with a regular size model, you can still run into challenges of delivering interactive 3D experiences in those situations. And again, this comes back to needing expensive hardware and software to be able to scale your digital twin strategy and throughout your enterprise. And so with Vertex, with our approach to distributed cloud rendering, we eliminate these challenges and make it possible to view those massive factory models and to deliver 3D work instructions into situations where end users are on tablets. So with that, let's take a look at some Vertex in action here. So the first thing I want to do is demo our car factory model. So I'm in the Vertex Connect app, which is our SaaS offering that enables collaboration throughout your enterprise, but you could also leverage the Vertex APIs to be able to render this same model in any sort of application that you want to build, leveraging your factory floor model. So I'm just gonna hop into walk mode here real quick and get a little closer view of this model. So with Vertex, what you can see here is, we're simply streaming images to your device here. So like Matt talked about, all of the heavy lifting for Vertex is happening on the cloud. We're simply streaming down those images, which enables us to scale both model size, but then also deliver to tablets or mobile devices that interactive 3D experience. So what you see here is a supercar factory. You could design a view of your factory floor in real time where you're able to see what's the state of the configurations at various stations, where are my technicians running into issues, and really leverage that real-time view of your factory floor to optimize your process and add efficiency into your factory floor. So primarily wanted to show off the scale here of this car factory, but also have you start thinking about what are some other use cases I could use if I could render my entire factory floor model, for example, collaborating on the layout of this as well with suppliers. So those are just some of the initial use cases around factory floor. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump over to another application here. So this is a sample application. It's not the Vertex SaaS offering, but it's instead a sample application we built using that API, the Vertex API. So the same APIs that power our application, making those available through our digital twin platform and unlocking the ability for end users to build applications for whatever their use cases are. Here, what we're demonstrating is, it's still the same rendering API, streaming images from the cloud. We're trying to replicate what it will be like for end users who have multiple stations and multiple configurations moving through that factory, and how you would manage that experience using the Vertex APIs. So you can see here, we've set up our various steps that highlight the parts that need to be assembled, provide work instruction steps here as well, just using lorem ipsum, but you could imagine that this data was coming from MES or ERP or some other system where you're already managing those work instruction steps. And then also providing back, when you select and interact with parts here, your part information. And so what this does is start to demonstrate how by bringing all this different data into Vertex, you could also unlock other use cases where you're logging part defects or providing some other experience where you're able to expose that part name, metadata information, other data that would be helpful to your manufacturing shop floor, or vice versa, that would be helpful to capture on the shop floor and feed that data back into engineering by providing that information to your technicians. One other thing I just want to call out around this demo too is we built this application trying to mirror an experience where you would import your parts into a Vertex parts library, and this would let you then construct these different scenes very dynamically. As long as we have all the parts in the Vertex parts library, then you can on the fly add parts or swap out parts of your configuration. It makes it very dynamic to be able to construct these scenes and these views and make sure that you're using the right parts for your work instruction steps. The last use case I wanted to demo here is our factory floor with IoT data aligned to it. So what you can see here is a bike factory, and we are we have our historical IoT data here as well. As I interact with the historical data, you can see that the view is updating to reflect that data on the model itself. And this can help you figure out where you might have issues or where you need to have optimizations on your factory floor as well. I'm not going to spend too much time on IoT. Matt and Jim Zwicka on our team did a webinar last week on using our platform for IoT use cases, and that's available on the website. So I definitely recommend checking that out. Okay, I'll jump back over to the deck here. Just to recap really quick, we saw how with Vertex you can visualize massive models and how that unlocks the ability to collaborate around your factory floor, whether that's optimizing your plant layout, logistics and material flow. By being able to visualize that factory, it unlocks a lot of different use cases for helping you bring efficiency to your process. We also stepped through a sample application that shows using the Vertex APIs to provide interactive 3D work instructions to the factory floor. And also because that's integrated with your PLM system, it keeps it up to date and you don't have to worry about creating these secondary assets that you have to manage around work instructions, whether that's 3D or 2D, because we're integrated into your systems of record. That data can always is always up to date, and you can always make sure you're viewing the latest part and part revisions. And then lastly, we showed how you can align that IoT data, and there's other examples too of aligning data with MES or ERP, all with the goal of improving manufacturing efficiency and quality through these use cases.
Thank you, Allison. Let's see, let's hop over to some of the questions that we're getting here. First question, assuming my company creates a repository of lightweight models, what is the recommended file format for such a repository?
So Vertex, ultimately to Vertex, it doesn't matter. We're just streaming those images so that it doesn't have to be a lightweight digital representation. You can use the native CAD. So I think for a question like that, it's really thinking through what are the workflows I have today and how do I want to integrate pushing that data into Vertex. So we support all of the major native CAD formats. We support all of the major Exchange CAD formats as well. So as long as you have 3D CAD and you have those representations ready to go, we can figure out the best way to import that into Vertex.
Yeah, and one thing I'd add to that too, you don't necessarily need a repository of lightweight models before you start using Vertex. We could connect directly to the actual full strength CAD model, if you will, rather than creating a smaller, lighter weight representation, which comes to the next question here, Allison. So, what PLM or ERP systems can you connect to, and how do I do that?
Yeah, so we've designed the Vertex platform to be API first, and so we're essentially exposing the APIs that we use for our application to our end users. So for import, we have a set of APIs that's designed to integrate with all of the major PLM systems, and we have working examples of integrations with Windchill and Windchill and Team Center. So I think the first step is just to understand what you want that process to look like when you want data to be pushing into Vertex, and then designing the integration to support that. And I mentioned when I demoed that work instructions application that can be an integration where you're pushing in individual parts or full models. And so I think it's just understanding your end use case and how you want that data to be available in Vertex.
Great. One more question related to some of the CAD. I don't have CAD modeled for my factory. Can you render point cloud data? Let me take this one.
Sure.
So, we hear this a lot with with the smart factory use cases, oftentimes your factory might be older, is probably older than CAD itself. Maybe some parts of your factory floor are modeled in 3D, but other parts aren't. We have the ability to take 3D LiDAR scan data and combine that with the model data. So, and by the way, this isn't just an ability to do point cloud with CAD. It's our multi-CAD merge functionality. So you can take CAD data or geometry data from a variety of different formats, and as long as the positioning and scale are aligned, you can combine those things and merge them together within Vertex, including a number of different sources. So, it could be, I've got my some parts of my CAD factory modeled, other parts I don't, and that's going to be point cloud data. But then, like Allison was showing, each car at each station, I definitely have all the 3D work instructions for that. You can pull all of that together within Vertex. Let's see. This is a good one. So how is this different than the other web-based 3D visualization toolkits out there like WebGL?
Yeah, so I think the important thing to keep in mind is that with Vertex, all of the heavy lifting is happening on the cloud. So like Matt covered and I covered, all we're streaming down to the device is pixels and images. So this allows us to scale for model size, but also deliver a highly interactive 3D experience on a low compute device as well, like a tablet. So that's the main differentiator between Vertex and the existing platforms that you might be considering for these use cases.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. One other question here. Do you have any reference cases to present? Some of our references are on our website right now from, I believe both the Vermeer and Terex case studies are up online. We have a number of others, but we're currently not publicizing those right now. But if you contact us, we could probably talk through some of the things that we're seeing and chat with you about the particular use cases that you're interested in. One more question here. How can I integrate Vertex with our in-house made software for assembly instructions in the factory?
Well, I guess one thing I would note is that our SDK that we're using, it's essentially a web components-based SDK that could be easily integrated into an existing application that you're already using. So I think part of it is just maybe spending some time with the Vertex engineering team and talking through that SDK. And our APIs and our SDKs are all documented on our dev portal, developer.vertexviz.com. So you can check it out there and see and understand our SDK and how you might integrate that into an existing application.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. One thing that we made sure that we did with the Vertex application and platform was to make sure that we're not trying to replicate any sources of data. So we're not trying to replicate all the work instruction work that you've already done. Or something like configuration management. What we want to do is provide you a 3D window into all of that data and to align all those data sources. And so, like Allison said, with our SDK, you can basically drop that into any HTML-based application. We also have companies using our Microsoft Xamarin SDK, which is a cross-platform mobile application development environment on the .NET language environment. And so, using those two SDKs, we've been able to basically embed into any pre-existing software or application that our customers have created thus far. So let's see. I think that's all the questions that we have time for today. If there are some questions that we had that we didn't have time to get to, please send those our way directly. We will be sending out the recording of this webinar as well as the slide deck and a couple additional resources about digital twins tomorrow. And as Allison mentioned, you can always visit our website, vertexbiz.com, to learn more about our product offerings. And like I said, this previously, this is our third in a series of webinars around building different types of digital twins for different groups. Next week, we'll be going over some use cases of digital twins for sales and customer experience. And thank you for joining, and have a great rest of your day.